Well, I got pretty smeary here, didn't I? Maybe a little too much. And I'm not putting in the blue I thought I was going to. Once I started working down here, I really like this purple. So maybe we'll just have to go more in the direction of some of these colors and maybe a bit of blue later. We'll see. I don't know. I used cobalt blue, which was a little too greenish blue. So let's go back to another shot of this purple. Put some more in. See how it goes. My lines, I've made this, I'm getting kind of silly with this too. I really wanted it to just sort of shoot straight across here and then cut up. So let's play with that. That's a bit bluer. Okay. 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 And I do like some lines going like this, but this would end up being the only place in the entire painting that has that, particular sort of look to it. So I don't want it all sort of smeared on and glooped on and blended like that. I'm going to put some choppy stuff in as well. Just sort of in keeping with our style so far. And, I'm applying it, a lot of it in this direction, and then I might go over it and smooth it out in places. Change the appearance of the direction of the stroke. Get rid of that greenish blue. I like that better. There, it's a little more, how do you say, impressionistic. I might use a smaller knife to work against here. Okay, I think I like how that's going. I think I do. There's literally a guideline. Ultramarine blue. I'm going to stay away from the cobalt blue now. So ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson. A lot of it. A lot of this area will be just that. earth tones, we'll play it by ear. They're most likely going to disappear. Or become blended in so much as to not be too noticeable anymore. Yeah, I like that idea. Just hook down and gradually come up. You know, we need enough mass here, because we've got a lot of mass here. These are going to be more defined edges, I think. So I'd like to undercut it, make this edge appear a little weaker, and this one just sort of become stronger. I might even blend the grass, sort of this grassy bit, into the earthy bit a little more. You know, we just keep developing it. Well, I was using this knife. This was the bigger knife that I was using. And now I've actually switched to this knife. I've used this knife before and I wasn't happy with it, but it was on a smaller painting, and because I have such a large area here that I want to keep interesting, I decided to switch it up and just see how it goes. I'm actually really liking this knife now. It needs breaking in, and my palette, the colors on my palette are sort of in a tight circle, and if so I'm getting paint on my knuckles and what have you. So I'm not used to it. But I like the idea of maybe using this a little more again in the future. It's kind of, yes, it covers ground well. It's not just that though. I just like how it handles. I think what I'll do is paint this whole area using this knife, and then go in with my smaller one to groom it a little bit, you know, to tidy it up. But this will take a bit of getting used to. And as you can see, my blues are coming back now. I like the graduation from these yellows to the purple, softer purple, and then we come into the strong blues, and very bold strokes as we come to the foreground. This is honestly, from my memory of trying this the last time, this is a pleasant surprise. I wasn't actually expecting it, but I'll take it. Now, you go through a lot more paint. That's okay. I think I've mentioned before, if you're going to be cheap on paint and work with Impressionism, then, well, just good luck with that. You need to be willing to go through paint like a madman. And yeah, I know paint's expensive, but that's the price. Yeah, like, it's almost funny, like, just has a more energetic feel to it. Probably because you can put on so much more paint. But I'd rather make a painting that is very strong and lively and cost me a few more dollars than make a painting that's just kind of weak and insipid because I was afraid to be generous and maybe a little flamboyant with the paint. Because if you end up with a weak and insipid painting, well, what was the point in making the painting to start with, right? At least that's my thinking. And honestly, I've never used a knife of this size on any painting ever to do any large amount, except for, as I said shortly after buying it, trying it. So I'm really happy I decided to give it a whirl again. But boy, when you use something with a bigger blade, you stand the chance of making much bigger mistakes, which I don't mind. I think once I get used to this knife a little more, I don't think that's going to be an issue. I know there are landscape artists out there that use huge knives, and I'm not fond of the really big knives, because I guess if you're on a mural-sized canvas it's okay, but in general I tend to like a little more control than that. And compared to some people, this is still a very small knife. It's just a little bit big for me, or bigger than I'm used to, rather. Okay, yeah, I think we're doing all right. Well, I'm pretty happy with how the blues and the purples have been set in here. I was really happy to play with this larger knife and discover a way that I could use it on certain paintings successfully. I like it because it allows a lot of texture. It's easy to allow a lot of texture in a foreground that might be sort of a large area of similar colors, and with each stroke, as long as you don't overmix it on your palette and you lay it in there, you end up with a nice variety of stuff. Anyway, I'm happy about that. What I'm not happy about is this, my little patch here. And I think I'm not too thrilled with the color that I used. I think that I'm not fond of the fact that I went a fairly high value, or higher value than I should, right there. Highlights are fine, but in general I think I just went a little bit too high in the value. So I'm going to scrape this now. And it's not just this area, it's the way that it is introduced into this pathway or eroded area or swale, whatever you want to call it. No, it's just not done well enough. So I've scraped it off, scraped the excess paint off now, and I'm going to do something that it's my sort of TPT, toilet paper theory. No, it's not a theory, it's just a practice. And I'm, pulling a bit of paint off of there. And excess oil. So what you end up doing is, you don't want to leave it on there for too long, because it'll become one with the canvas, and then when you go to peel it off the canvas, you'll end up with toilet paper sticking to the canvas, and we don't want that either. And see, I'm not leaving it on there for 20 minutes because I've scraped most of the paint off. And just once it's pressed on, you can pretty much pull it off. If you're adding mediums to your paint, you might want to leave it on for a little bit longer. And you might want to do it a few times, because as soon as you add mediums, you're pretty much adding oil to the paint. And yeah, one layer of toilet paper probably doesn't work. You know, you could use a rag, you could use paper towel, but toilet paper is very flimsy, and if you use something very flimsy, it sort of gives you greater contact, you know, more even contact with everything. Okay, that's going to have to sit for the moment, and I'm just going to have to smarten up and do a better job of this, you know, this foliage capped area going into the sand or dirt or what have you. I don't think I'll get to the trees yet. I think I'm going to shift my attention to the other side of the painting and start playing in here, because this and this will need to be closely related in some fairly important ways, even though they're not adjacent to each other. I'm just happy about that knife. And again, there it sits so far.